it's B. So I know it's a little bit early in the year, but I wanted to get a head start on my Halloween videos because the end of this month, which is September, I don't know when I'll get around to uploading this, and October are going to be really busy for me. On this channel thus far, I have made an awful lot of retrospective videos talking about early internet culture and games, which are of course some of my favorite things. But for those of you who don't know, one of my greatest lifelong interests is survival horror games, specifically ones from the 90s and early to mid 2000s. When I was a kid, and I mean like really little, like this is one of my first memories from when I was about a year old, my dad loved Resident Evil games, and playing it was kind of like a family event. So every February we would pick out one of the Resident Evil games that we had, and this is between the years of like 2000 and 2006. So either Resident Evil 1, 0, 2, 3, Code Veronica, or 4, eventually. We would shut all the lights off and like turn the surround sound on, and you'd have like the faint buzzing of the CRT just like being on in the same room as you. And we would watch my dad play Resident Evil. And I say watch, but in reality like 90% of my face was covered with a blanket because I was too scared. I actually learned how to read from being in charge of reading all of the files that he would pick up in the game, as well as being in charge of giving directions to key items using one of those gigantic walkthrough books, if you can remember those. So basically what I am trying to get at here is that Resident Evil has been a very large and important part of my life for as long as I can remember. And through all of these memories, my favorite Resident Evil was always Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is a game that truly needs no introduction, seeing how every single YouTuber under the sun has made a video covering how influential it has been in the realm of survival horror, changing the formula of the genre to be more action-based than ever before. Resident Evil 4 has also received a VR adaptation within the past year and an announcement that a remastered version is soon to come, which I have very mixed feelings about, so I'm not going to get into that very much. One pretty much universally held opinion by anyone who has ever played Resident Evil 4 is that Ashley is really fucking annoying. Ashley baby, we know that you need help. We are fully aware. We can hear you loud and clear. We are doing the best we can. We will be there in a minute. Just stop screaming. Oh my god. For those of you who aren't as familiar or just need a little refresher, in Resident Evil 4 you play as Leon Kennedy, former Raccoon City police officer from Resident Evil 2, who is now a federal agent sent on a mission by the United States President to rescue his daughter Ashley, who has been kidnapped by a cult. Though there are parts of the game where you're separated from her, at large the game is an escort mission where you are in charge of protecting Ashley from the bad guys, aka Ganados, who are trying to hurt her or steal her away. Ashley is very in the way pretty much all of the time. Her AI isn't great, and if you want her out of your way, it's best to just leave her in a dumpster, which is literally something you can do. As you escort her through the various rooms and locations in the game, she is constantly screaming, calling out for you, getting picked up and carried away by enemies, and getting killed the second that you turn your back, causing a game over screen. You can also unlock the third costume set in the game, which gives her a full suit of armor, so she cannot be injured or picked up or carried away, but she still screams, and also every time she takes a step you have to listen to metal clanking, which is arguably more annoying. So you're better off just keeping her in one of the cute outfits. Ashley's character contrasts greatly from that of every other woman in every other Resident Evil game. Let's think about it for a second. Ada Wong, Claire Redfield, Sheva Alomar, Rebecca Chambers, and Jill Valentine. What do all of these women have in common? They are all badass, gunslinging, backflipping, grappling hook using, trained agents. And what is Ashley? She is the 20-year-old affluent daughter of the president. She can't even jump down from high platforms without needing to be caught and cradled in Leon's arms, because she is the damsel in distress. But is that really a bad thing? The trope or archetype of the damsel in distress has been around for centuries. She is described as the woman who has either been kidnapped or put in some general peril that must be rescued by a man, while her kinship or love provides him with all the motivation he needs to continue his pursuit of her despite the challenges he may face along the way. Some of the most recognizable examples of this being Rapunzel or Princess Peach. The dynamic of Leon and Ashley's relationship perfectly fits this trope, despite the fact that the love part is kind of missing, since he's being paid to do it, even though I do kind of wish that they ended up dating in the end. The portrayal of Ashley in this way has been highly criticized since the game's release in 2005, even being included amongst the top 15 most offensive gaming characters ever list, but the reason she is considered so annoying is because she is defenseless. The article even says, quote, "How about putting a gun in her hand every now and then?" I'd like to take a quick detour before I continue my point about the damsel in distress trope by talking about arguably one of the most terrifying and stressful parts of Resident Evil 4, the part where you play as Ashley herself. Though this section of the game is very brief, you are able to experience the world of Resident Evil 4 not from the perspective of a trained federal agent who is armed to the teeth and able to suplex bad guys with the press of a button. Though you were able to suplex bad guys as Ashley in the GameCube version of the game, but I'm pretty sure that was just a mistake. But from the perspective of someone who has never in their entire life had to fight in this way and must survive by any means necessary, even if they are unarmed and completely defenseless. Self-preservation being the only goal, rather than thinking about what your next gun upgrade is going to be and whether or not you have enough money yet to buy a rocket launcher. This section of the game begins shortly after being separated from Leon and finding the key to an escape through an exit on the floor below where Leon is currently standing. You push open the door, save at the typewriter since this isn't likely going to go very well, especially if it's your first time playing through this section. You check your inventory, which you find to be completely empty, and in front of you is one of the Ganados. You have no weapons, so you scurry past him, find an herb that you're definitely going to end up needing, and then have an unfortunate pseudo-upskirt moment as you're forced to crawl under a table to get from point A to point B. These moments don't get any less annoying every single time that they happen, which is quite a lot, as it's supposed to be an evasion tactic to get the Ganados to stop attacking you. So, every time you crawl under a table, it zooms in on our ass like this close to the screen. And all I keep wondering is who is putting all of these fucking tables everywhere? There is no way that they need this many tables. Someone hire an interior decorator or something. There's no excuse. During the time that you play as Ashley, you are presented with oil lamps sitting on some of the tables, which you can pick up and throw at enemies to set them on fire, which does not necessarily kill them. I think it takes 2 of these lamps to kill an enemy, and the lamps are also few and far between, so don't get too used to it. But this is the only way that you can defend yourself while you play as her. During this portion of the game, you also have to turn quite a few cranks to open up various doors, and if you somehow missed or forgot to throw the lamps on the Ganados in the room prior to doing this, you are vulnerable while you're turning the cranks, and that could mean the end for you. As you enter the next section, you're now in a puzzle room holding a flashlight. You continue down a hallway full of metal statues of knights in armor lining the walls, to a simple slide puzzle to open up the next door, grab a few treasures, and then you start to hear clanking as a group of knights in armor begin to pursue you. Swinging their giant axes at you, you run past them only to be met with 3 more knights whose attacks you must dodge before you finally make your escape and are reunited with Leon, who tells you you did good and gives you a big hug. This entire section to me has always felt like something similar to Haunting Ground or Clock Tower 3, in that you really have no way of defending yourself from your pursuers other than to just run and hope for the best. I know that this is the most universally hated part of the game, but truth be told, I wish this section was longer just so we could experience more of this perilous situation from her perspective. I'll explain why. Resident Evil 4 is sometimes considered to be the end of survival horror as a genre because this is regarded as the first game where the tone shifts from being thrown into a situation where you're completely unprepared and totally scared shitless, to being cool guy, over-the-shoulder shooter man who has a rocket launcher and kicks major ass. As much as I love this game with my whole heart, this viewpoint isn't entirely wrong. Leon is badass McCool grenade guy. You're not afraid when you play as him because he is more than prepared to take on the challenges that are going to be thrown at him. When you play as Ashley, however, it truly is survival horror. You're defenseless, you're scared, you don't know what to do, you're definitely not prepared for this, and the only goal is to survive. There's nothing scarier than being the damsel in distress, which is why games like Haunting Ground and Clock Tower 3 work so well, even if they may not be the biggest or most recognizable survival horror titles. Ashley's portrayal in this way doesn't detract from the game. If anything, it adds to it. If she was armed, what would be the point of having her there at all? She could just rescue herself. She wouldn't need to be our sidekick. We wouldn't have had to be sent to carry out this escort mission at all. If she was armed, it would be something more similar to Resident Evil 5, which isn't the most beloved Resident Evil title in the whole world, as we all know. People would have just found something else to complain about. But this is why I think Ashley's character is so important. I've seen plenty of tweets and Reddit posts after the announcement of Resident Evil 4's remake that voice concerns that they're going to take Ashley's character and basically girl bossify her. And what I mean by that is that fans of the original Resident Evil 4 are worried that in order to fix one of the most universally hated characters in the franchise, they're going to make Ashley a badass and essentially make her like every other female Resident Evil character. I am not opposed to making Ashley more confident or having her play a larger part in the story, or maybe being able to help with simple tasks like unlocking doors or collecting items or serving as a distraction for enemies. But I do think that without her damsel in distress nature, her purpose for existing in this game would basically cease to exist. And truth be told, not everyone needs to be a girl boss. If anything, their focus for fixing her character in the remake should be on making her portrayal a little less blatantly sexist in other ways. Maybe do away with the ridiculous amount of unskippable pseudo-upskirt shots during the part of the game where you play as her. Maybe give her more lines that aren't just screaming, that are actually integral to the plot of the game. Maybe give her a more fully fleshed out personality. I'd love to get a sense of her likes and her dislikes, and if they want to go all out and make her a spoiled princess, go for it. I love those kinds of characters, and honestly, it would be a really good source of comedic relief from all the action, considering so much of Resident Evil 4 is already filled with cheesy puns and general campiness anyways. And it's not like it wouldn't make sense for her character. I mean, she's literally the daughter of the president.
Small world, eh? Well, I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics, too.
How rude!
I don't really want to see Ashley be turned into another Ada Wong. And I love Ada Wong, but I don't need Ashley to be grappling hooking all over the place and kicking ass and doing slow-mo backflips for me to be able to see value in her as a character. It's of course a great thing to have a franchise that has so many badass women who can serve as a good role model for young girls who might be exposed to these games as a kid the way that I was. I know for a fact that I absolutely idolized Ada Wong and Claire Redfield growing up. But even though I would laugh and go, oh yeah, I hate Ashley too, she's so useless, I'm not like other girls, so I have to hate her. The fact is, characters like her matter to young girls too. They mattered to me. You will not always be a badass, and you won't always be the kind of person who never needs help and can handle everything on their own no matter how big the challenge presented to you is, and that's okay too. Characters like Ashley Graham and Fiona Belly and Alyssa Hamilton and Cinderella and Princess Peach and Sleeping Beauty and Princess Buttercup and Giselle and hell, even Rapunzel, they all matter too. Of course, it is a good and absolutely very important thing to be an independent person, but at the same time, if you're completely out of your depth, needing help isn't something to be ashamed of, and speaking down about female characters like these isn't good either. They don't lose value as people or as characters just because they aren't shooting people or suplexing bad guys. I think that the remnants of I'm not like other girls culture has really stuck with us all these years, making us feel that girls and women aren't worthwhile or valuable unless they're more stereotypically masculine than feminine. Women don't become less valuable if they like wearing makeup or dresses or skirts or jewelry or heels or the color pink, and they aren't bad characters just because they don't know how to shoot a handgun or throw a grenade or wear pants. Both of these types of women are just as valuable as one another, just in different ways. One is not better than the other. Pitting different female characters like these against each other is only one step away from pitting real women against each other, which, say it with me now, is also not good. Let's not do that. We gotta get past this whole I'm not like other girls thing. Like, seriously, we gotta move on. It's time. So yes, Ashley is annoying. Her AI isn't the best, but there's so much more value to her character and other characters like her that is overlooked just because of the superficial label of damsel in distress, which is often not even truly analyzed. she is a damsel in distress, so therefore she is bad and not a good female character, as opposed to she's a damsel in distress and that is okay because she adds to the story and gains something that other female Resident Evil characters cannot. One last thing I'd like to address before ending this video is another thing about this game that is criticized regarding Ashley, which is at the end of the game as her and Leon are riding off into the sunset on a jet ski in the campiest moment of the whole game. She says, so after you take me back to my place, how about we do some overtime? To which Leon says, sorry, as a polite way to decline this advance. And the major criticism of this whole interaction is that Ashley is throwing herself at him, and of course she's in love with him because what a cliche, ugh. But okay, let's put our critical thinking hats on for a moment here. I'm a woman. I am 2 years older than Ashley is supposed to be. If I just went through hell and back with a dude that looked like Leon Kennedy, who literally saved my life and caught me in his arms and princess carried me every 5 minutes and did everything in his power to protect me, I would probably fall in love with him too. You've seen Leon Kennedy. What are you talking about? Her having a little crush on him, considering she's the president's daughter and probably doesn't get out very often, considering how sheltered she must be since she is obviously a target, which is what the whole game is about, makes perfect sense. This is such a dumb point, and people bringing it up are clearly just looking for something else to complain about. Alrighty, well, there was my defense of Ashley Graham, which is the first in the series that I will be doing discussing the women of survival horror. I decided to start this series because as much as I see analysis videos being made about survival horror games on YouTube, like especially recently, I do not really ever see them made by women or with a focus on the women in the games themselves. So I thought it would be something new and something that I apparently have an awful lot to say about. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. I have a couple more ladies I will be talking about as this series continues from some lesser known survival horror titles, which I'm very excited to talk about with you guys. So I hope you are all having a good day or night or whatever time it is wherever you are. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.